and this is more playing out like a psychological thriller slash horror, especially this week. And I think that's great. I think it's great to take the superhero universe into different areas. This isn't quite the first time we've seen it done to this degree. When Jessica Jones came out, I felt that Jessica Jones, the superhero, kind of took a backseat to her being an abuse victim of, pretty much rape. And it was just, about all of those elements, and her superhero origins kind of was in the back seat, and it was still just this very interesting show as she dealt with having these powers, and then at the same time dealt with being an abuse victim, and being able to um, basically stand up to it, to find the strength to fight back her abuser. And I just thought that that was awesome, how they did that and how well that worked. And there's a similar things happening with this show. And, every week I'm just impressed with the direction of the show. It's holding my interest to a T. As I said in my first review, if they kept this part of the show going, that I would be on board, and I thought it would be a great show. And it's almost like they can read my mind. They have done exactly that. Another comment I want to make before I just delve right into it, guys, is that with these mutant shows, with these superhero shows, these comic book shows, we've seemingly had this one-dimensional storyline going, and that's the government against the mutants against the government, the mutants not trusting the government, things like that. We have a similar element here, but it's taking a back seat to that. That's kind of secondary to what's going on with the story. But we've seen that in all these, from the Avengers, or Captain America Civil War dealt with the Mutant Registration Act, and the fear of mutants and things like that, and just focus totally on that. But I like to see these shows showing us that they have range to go off into other areas, still hold our interest, and still be loosely based on these comic book adaptions. So, guys, I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing so far. This week, guys, we get David Haller. Um, David's still pretty much thinking about the situation with his sister. As we left off last week, he's concerned about his sister. He wants to rush in and save his sister, but before he can do that, he needs some help. He needs to know how to work these powers, how to use these powers. So they're taking him back under observation with the doctor from last week. We recall the last time they tried to help David. He ended up tossing the MRI machines, outside the building, several dozen feet away. And so there's this kind of funny scene this week where the doctor's, basically letting David know, please don't break any more of the equipment. And David's like, I can't promise that. I don't know what's going to happen. And sure enough, once they start to place David under observation, they start to trigger something in his mind where, he starts to have this conversation with, I believe her name is Lenny, played by Aubrey Plaza. And, we we understood that in the previous episodes, Lenny was killed when Sydney swapped places with David, and she didn't know how to use his powers. Lenny ends up dead. Now, Lenny kind of inhabits David's mind. Her memories, some kind of way, have been observed, or her being into his mind. And they're having this conversation. She's talking about how, the people and I believe the facility that David's at is called Summerland, if I'm not mistaken. And, Lenny's basically letting him know that, he can't trust anybody. He can't trust, the people that he believes, are helping him and things like that. So, um, you know, uh, things just get crazier and crazier. As Dave is, going through his various memories, he starts to exhibit, several different types of powers. He actually just starts to levitate in the room. He seems like he's about to destroy the facility, similar to what happened last week. And Sydney's there this time. She rushes in to try to, be of some help, to try to comfort David, at her, placing herself basically in danger. And as she rushes in, and she's impressed with with these extraordinary abilities that David is exhibiting. She's sucked into, David's power or mind as well, and they actually kind of do this. It's like they're on the astral plane. They're kind of projecting themselves. They actually project themselves out to where David's sister is being held with Division 3. We know that Division 1, I believe, was the, I'm assuming Division 3, might be their, their higher level or something to that effect. But this is the older gentleman who's kind of running the Division 3, and he's kind of sitting behind the scenes. He's come down, and he's, part of the questioning of David's sister. And we also have the other character that kind of has the perm here. I believe he's called the Eye, and he seems to have some kind of mutant abilities as well. And he's there, and during the interrogation, and so we get to find out that first David and Sydney, they actually kind of teleport there, and they can kind of see everything that's going on, with David's sister, the questions they're asking her. And the Eye, his mutant ability must be that he can see, things other people can't see, because apparently he's able to see David and Sid standing there in their projected form, and it's not their physical bodies. It's kind of like this hologram thing going on, and he reaches out to grab them, and they zap back to David's body, but he actually ends up teleporting their physical body outside of the facility as well, and they kind of reappear in a pond outside the facility. They're still, at the facility, but they're outside the building in a pond. So was kind of a little bit puzzled there. It looks like they were not only able to project themselves out, but actually able to physically teleport themselves as well. So apparently David has a lot of different types of abilities. He's starting to tap in, seemingly accidental, but as it was brought up, he's the most powerful mutant they've ever seen or encountered. But David's sister is with Division 1, and she's being questioned about basically the idea that David isn't who she thinks he is. She's thinking that David's just sick. He suffers from schizophrenia, and he needs to take his medicine. And she keeps repeating to them, but they're letting her know that David is not sick. David has tremendous powers that we find it hard to believe that you weren't aware of. And they start to kind of go back in her history and trying to find out if there was nothing that she found out of the ordinary as they were growing up. No displays of power. If she thought there were ghosts in the house because things were moving seemingly by themselves. And whereas David would be moving these things, she was kind of dismissing it as maybe it was just ghosts or things like that. And so, I guess she's starting to think, David's sister's, starting to think back, because it's looking like either she was aware of incidents with David like this, she had to be, or her memory as well has been suppressed by something or someone growing up in the house, same as how David's memories have been suppressed and hidden away for some reason, whether that reason be either for his own safety or to limit his ability so he's not effective. We don't really know that yet in the show. But the strange thing about that scene is it's seeming like Division 3 has some very valid points that a being like David moving around with powers unchecked would be a danger to not only himself but everyone else. And we know that his powers are a danger also to himself, because we remember in the first episode where he's kind of having the episode in the kitchen, and the objects are flying by him, and they're actually hurting him as well. They're cutting him, so he doesn't have any kind of protective field around him when he's using the power. So, I just thought what Division 3 had to say about the situation with David was quite valid, and that, the way that the doctor was talking to the sister, he didn't seem, all that much of a bad guy, but the thing is, I don't know what was going on with the ills. No interrogation methods seemed to be, or harsh methods were seemingly used on the sister. So maybe those things could possibly be some kind of way to, to use powers or stop them. They may serve some purpose other than the purpose initially I thought they were going to be used for, which was going to be, something dealing with, interrogation. And, so as David, and Sid, come out of the pond, and after they've teleported from, back from where Division 3 was holding his sister, he has this conversation with the, and geez, I can't remember her name. I had known it, but she's, who I call the Charles Xavier figure. And, she's basically telling David that he's so powerful, and how he's, he has this memory, he's repressing his memories, and how he's keeping them out, which he keeps denying he's doing. But they're saying they believe it's David doing this, that she doesn't feel that she can help him, that perhaps they've made a mistake, and that she could be making it worse. So David's taking this like she's giving up on him, but at this point they're becoming very much afraid, because, David, they can't control him, and they don't know really what's going to happen next. She also tells them this story about the character of I, who was back at the Division 3 interrogation, basically letting them, giving them an idea of how he was able to see them, and how he was able to, reach out to try to grab them, and that he himself is a mutant, but it goes a little deeper than that, that her husband had built the facility of Summerland to help other mutants adjust to their abilities, and that I was a mutant who wanted to hurt people, so he didn't fit into the idea of why Summerland was created, to help mutants. He had this tendency, as she explains it, to, to hurt people. And so, she also warns David that, hey, you guys can't keep going back there, because eventually they're going to be able to, not only trap you all, but track you all back here, and they'll come in and kill everybody. So, not exactly sure how the Eye would be able to do that. Maybe he has more abilities than what we could see. Maybe he's able to kind of, get into their minds as well. I have no idea, but they were very much afraid about what the Eye could do, in regards if David kept going back there, and his powers weren't, up to par to deal with Division 3. But in addition to that, they come up with this plan that there may be one way that they're able to try to get David back his memories, to try to get his powers under control, and that is through sedating David. They want to sedate him, they want to shut him down, and David's willing to do that. Sydney wants to come as well, but David really doesn't want her to join in, because of the danger, and so basically they're able to sedate David, and Sydney's able to convince David to go, for her to go in and things like that. So they all go in once David's under sedation. And we get this very touching scene where, inside David's mind, while he's under sedation, we get to see this younger version of David, that's kind of representing certain aspects of David's mind, the more innocent, the more calm part of David's ability, I guess, to reflect the sedation, at that, that it's a more calmer space inside David's mind, under this, under the sedation. And, in this place, we know that Sydney has this ability to, when she touches anyone, she'll swap places with them. But inside David's mind, it's safe for her to touch David. So get this really emotional scene where she hugs David for the first time, and it's something she can't do once she leaves there. So so they're moving along through the various aspects of David's mind, and Sydney is seeing a lot of things David didn't want her to see. As David's warned her before she's went into his mind that there are things about me that you won't like, that you'll start to see me different. David's basically revealed is what they find out once they're in his mind, that he is a junkie. They know he's a junkie, that he was, did a lot of drugs and things like that. And, a lot of strange things start to happen. David, the younger version of David starts to run off. Sydney's pursuing him. Everybody's being cut off from different sections of David's mind, inside, his mind. And as Sydney's pursuing David, they're all being pursued by the demon, the yellow-eyed demon. And as I have been saying in earlier episodes, this demon, when he enters David, when he comes on the scene, it's almost like a type of possession. Only David could see the demon, but now, for some reason, Sydney can see the demon as well. She sees the demon earlier. She warns him about the earlier when they go into his mind, when she went into his mind the first time, and then she sees him again when they all go in whilst David is under heavy sedation, and they're being pursued by the demon. And, Sydney's basically begging David that you got to get us out of here. The demon's, right on our tracks. He's going to kill us. And, it seemingly works because Sydney is able to come out of the memory of, of David. And, whilst in there, we recall from the other week's episode that, the book, The World's Angriest Boy, was being read. And this was this story being read to David. And it's this very horrifying, terrible account of, this little boy who his mom forces him to go to bed. And when he doesn't want to, and, he basically cuts off his mom's head. And, as we get to the end of the review, I'm going to give some speculations about what that might mean. But this, cartoony character is coming alive in David's mind, and he's pursuing them all over David's mind. It's just really creepy. And we also got, again, the demon doing it, who I speculate could be from the comic books, a main character. But she convinces David, or somehow reaches a part of David that's able to send her out of David's mind. Everybody else is still under in David's mind, and so Sydney's trying to wake everyone up, to get them out of the dangerous situation, and she's successfully able to wake everyone up, but David. She can't wake David up, and we get, but before she can wake up, I'm sorry, the character here, Professor Xavier, and I got to learn her name. Again, she's found out, she has come across the book in David's mind, The World's Angriest Boy. So she's starting to put together some pieces of what it could mean. As she's going through the book trying to ascertain more information, the book closes on her hand. It looks like it takes off some limbs and crushes her, some digits on her finger and crushes her hand. And she's just, I'm just going crazy, and when she's pulled out of the dream, when she's awakened by Sydney on the outside, she can't determine if it's real or not. And the black character, he's who creates the who's known as the memory artist. He's able to calm her down and let her know that it's not real. That we get to see her hand is perfectly fine, but just very horrifying and terrifying experience, inside David's mind. And as the episode leaves off, everybody's now outside of David's head. They're back, but David is still under. And in the last scene, we see David, and David is just being bombarded by dozens and dozens of people just screaming at him. All these beings inside his head, and David is just kind of in the middle, covering his ears, trying to deal with all these voices in his head. Just an awesome episode. This was an excellent episode. I can't, my review can't do the episode justice like I wanted to, because the scenery and the cinematography and the way that they shoot this show and the way that they use the imagery to represent these various memories and in David's mind, and these various projections is just awesome. It's awesome. And that's why I like so much they picked this character like David to do, where we can kind of go inside his mind and see all these interesting things going on, and be symbolic and representative of different concepts and ideas that immerse, these abstract ideas that kind of take these various forms. And I just thought that's just so awesome. So I want to get into some speculations and some theories about what exactly is going on in David's head. Since we're staying in David's head week after week, we don't seem to be getting out of his head, which I like, because as I said earlier, I thought it was going to be one of these mutant shows with him just using telekinesis and telepathy on people, and just these various mutant armies fighting, which if it goes to a season 2 or something like that, we probably eventually will get it. Maybe this episode here just wants to focus on what's understanding just the importance of Legion, the character, and what's going on in his head. But my theories and speculations, one, that as they had played with, we were trying to figure out the schizophrenia thing from the multiple personality disorder thing, like brought up in the comic books. And I'm going to be careful, guys, for now with the comic books, because generally I use comic books to try to give us an overall synopsis of the show, to try to set it up so we know what the show is about. But this has been very dangerous with this show, because the way they're doing this show, a lot of the things that I would consider a comic book synopsis into the adaptation of the TV show is actually turning out to be spoilers. And I like to watch my shows along with you guys, so I'm going to have to try to dial it back some, because I've already given out a little bit too much information in my reviews, just being a little bit slow behind how they're doing the storytelling on this show. I did think it was going to go in a different direction, and it didn't. It's actually making the character this great mystery the entire show. So some of my speculations is that with the multiple personality disorder, the schizophrenia thing, I think what we're seeing in David's mind, and I'm going to try to give my speculations too, just based on what we've gotten from the show and not so much from what the comic books is telling us as well. But I think that what we're seeing in his mind is a type of multiple personality disorder, where I don't necessarily think a lot of the characters that we're seeing talking to him are real. Of course, we know Lenny is dead. I think maybe Lenny was alive at some point. I think that part was real. I think she was real. But I think what may have happened with Lenny was that Lenny, some power, some other ability he has might have absorbed some type of essence or personality of her inside of himself. That's my guess on it, guys. Also, I'm also going with I don't believe that the people we think are real or fake. You know, like some people are saying that they think that the doctors here at Summerland and some of the characters that are helping David are, um, you know, basically from his mind. I don't believe that. I think they are very much real. I think the only people that, in other words, guys, I guess what I'm saying is as complicated as this show is seeming, as much of a psychological roller coaster is taking us on, I don't think it's going to be as complicated as a lot of us are making it. Like, I think the characters we see that we believe are real are actually real. Like the doctors, I think they're real. I think the only people that aren't real are the people that have these weird scenes in David's mind, like Lenny, like all the people we've seen talking to him, all the different voices talking to him in his head. I believe they're all false. You know, obviously, I won't comment on the Yellow Demon if I think he's real or not. You know, some people speculate that he might be, you know, some version of David's mind, some evil version, sort of like how Lenny could be some type of version that seeks gratification, this version that just has these uninhibited ideas of do, you know, what you want to do what you feel, that type of thing. I won't go that far with that. I think both Lenny and the Yellow Demon are beings that were actually real. They seem to be in a category of themselves when we get all the voices screaming at David in his mind. So I think you know that they are real. So that's, you know, my speculation that the people who seem real are real. And as we look back on the show, you know, another thing I think kind of supports that is that if we look at Lenny, you know, it's very much in our face and clear that Lenny is not no longer alive. That she's not real, but that she's existing inside David's mind in some part of his memory or something like that. But if they want to kind of take us on a roller coaster ride, I think where we didn't know who was real and who was fake, I think they could have just did that with Lenny as well. I think they could have just kept Lenny's character kind of hidden from us where we went, oh, I don't know if Lenny's actually alive or not. You know, she could be not. So, and then again, there's the scene where he's asking his girlfriend, is this real? Is this real? And she's saying, yes, it's real. So I believe Sid is real. His girlfriend is real as well. Um, and you know, so that's pretty much my speculations with the show so far, guys. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of elements, just like you are. Um, I think the show's doing an excellent job so far. And I think we're going to get. Oh, I did have one more speculation, and I'm not going to. And it's kind of comic book based, but I'm not going to say name the characters who I think might be involved in this. I'm just going to give an idea of what, coupled with that, I think might happen. I also think that David's, the person who's hiding David's memories, or I'm sorry, the reason he can't remember is to do with, you know, you could go in the direction of David is suppressing his memories with his own power on his own, kind of like how, you know, a person who's had a traumatic experience can do with their own memories. But I think with David it's different. I think with David it might be suppressed by another mutant, another powerful mutant that's trying to protect him. And that's all I'm going to say on that, guys. Guys, thanks for watching this week's episode. I hope you're enjoying the show as much as I am. Be sure and comment. Let me know what you all think about the show. If you know, what are your predictions about the show, or what do you think's going on? Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. And until next time, take care.